And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Madeleine Redfern, Executive Director at the Northern Branch of Arctic 360. Madeleine, before we turn the topics, you mentioned Russia's war in Ukraine earlier. Love to get a kind of a northern perspective on that. It clearly is driving a lot of defense announcements these days at the Department of National Defense, and obviously a lot of economic turmoil in the world. So how has Russia's war on Ukraine sort of changed the calculus in the far north, in the Arctic?
I think that's affected us in two ways. One is that we've seen a significant increase in cost of living, both with respect to not just the fuel that that we get at the pumps for to put into our vehicles, but it's affecting our heating costs, it's affecting our food costs, and it's making more people living in poverty. But at the same time, we've seen, as I said earlier, significant announcements of billions of dollars, both by the United States and by the government of Canada, to build out new infrastructure in our northern regions. And whether that is the Arctic patrol ships, commitments for finding power and heating solutions, telecommunication solutions, and transportation solutions. So there is synergy available for us, but we need a plan. And right now, we don't have a plan on how we're going to ensure that the investments that we make in our northern regions are going to meet the needs both of our communities and the needs of our military. So, as I said, Ukraine invasion has accelerated the discussions on NORAD modernization.
Now, maybe many Canadians are not aware of this, but of course, it has also accentuated the fact that the Arctic is a theater of competition, and that there's a lot more aggressive activity by Russian, air, fighter jets and other tools available to them, probably drones as well. So, is that something that's talked about in the Arctic?
Absolutely, it is a growing conversation that's happening with our Indigenous organizations and our Indigenous development corporations. Nasytuk actually won the NORAD contract worth billions of dollars, and there is money in that to help build Inuit capacity. There is absolutely now discussions amongst our northern regions about how we're going to participate in the NORAD modernization, both with respect to actually bidding on and securing those contracts that build out that infrastructure, but also ensuring that that infrastructure, as I said earlier, actually also supports, the ability to build an economy for our people. We need training, we need jobs, and we need people to, no longer be living in poverty. So we see this as a possibility of building, good security for our national defense purposes, but also helping our local regional community security.
Now, you mentioned earlier, food costs and inflation, which is a perennial problem in the Arctic, of course. Love to get your sense on some of the supply chain crisis issues that are also not only a result of Russia, but also the chaos in China and so on. So tell us a little bit more about how that's affecting life in the Arctic.
So something even as basic as the length of the runways and the fact that they're not paved limits the type of aircraft that can come into our communities that bring not only our passenger traffic, but also our food. So a lot of that fleet that our Northern Airline has is getting old and aged, and they want to move into a larger, more modern type of aircraft that actually can bring in more food. But we can't do that unless we get the investments to pave our runways or extend our runways. And that's just something as simple and basic as that. Similarly, if the the fuel costs go up and we're 100% diesel dependent, then all costs, rise, not just the cost of the fuel to heat the buildings or homes or businesses, but it has that domino effect of increasing all service costs and all food costs. And so this is why we desperately need to see, us get to these transformative investments that are going to make real changes in our northern regions, not just for the next year, but for the, future proofing our region for decades.
Right.
Things have changed dramatically.
Right.